This? Again? What are you gonna spend the rest of your life sitting around on the couch? Come on.
Oh,
You've been doing this for days. Let's do something. Let's go
man,
out.
I'm sorry. I don't feel like going out.
What is it with you and musicals these days, anyhow?
Greetings, good storytellers. I am the artful narrator, and it is my privilege to welcome you to learning the tropes of writing. Now, today's episode is going to be a little different. I am recording this one unscripted and, with any luck, in one take, barring any unforeseen interruptions. Now, what this means for the quality, your guess is as good as mine. But today, I want to talk to you about musicals. For, as you may have seen if you watched my earlier video, I've been feeling a little down lately, been having some trouble. And as the Flash clip so eloquently puts it, musicals seem to make everything better. Well, not everything, but a lot of things. And for me, there's just something magical about a musical. Some of my favorite movies fall within this genre. But there is a lot of... there are a lot of variables that go in to musicals, and these variables can both elevate them to heights that are entirely spectacular, or cause them to fall not just to mediocrity, but to actually being downright terrible. And this is partly due to the fact that musicals are a blending of, as you might expect, songs and movies. And so the same things that can make a song spectacular or mediocre can also negatively or positively affect a musical. And perhaps this may be a thing that makes musicals, for some people, less easy to dive into. Another thing is the suspension of disbelief required to enjoy a musical is radically different than the suspension of disbelief that a regular movie asks of you. But let's actually get into some of the different types of musicals there are. For, at the very least, I can see that there are 3 different styles. Likely more, but for the purpose of this video, we will focus on these 3. So now, the first is the type of musical that if you are a fan of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movies, or even some Gene Kelly movies and other classic Silver Age and early Hollywood cinema. In these movies, the music is not presented in the form of some reality-breaking moment. Instead, it is narratively woven into the story, usually through the medium of the main character, oftentimes Gene Kelly or Fred Astaire, or Bob Hope, being a performer. And so the song section of the movie takes place during one of the character's stage performances, and he is there with an audience and a microphone, and it is all perfectly plausible and believable, but still affords you a chance to have some excellent song and dance. Also in these movies, there will sometimes be moments that are almost more akin to soliloquy, where a character is grappling with some realization or trying to figure out a problem, and will burst into song, but with a contemplative element to it, and with the narrative not really betraying any sign of people outside of his little internal monologue noticing that this song is being sung. It therefore has the feeling that this is just something that is going on in his thought processes, and again, as such, is more easy to buy. The next type of musical is almost not a musical, you could say, or at least not in the sense that you would think of a musical. This would be a movie like Tarzan or even Footloose, a movie that features excellent songs which do set the tone of the movie and elevate it, but songs which are not actually sung by any of the main characters per se. In these movies, the music is just either, you could almost think of it as the voice of the narrator, with Phil Collins highlighting these different moments for Tarzan, the Son of Man song showing him grappling with this challenge of growing up and becoming the great hero slash leader of the apes that he is meant to become. Or songs like maybe I Need a Hero from Footloose. Hard to tell. That movie is really just great songs paced over a pretty good plot, but the songs elevate it and heighten the drama significantly. Once more, with the songs feeling like they are just the voice of the narrator, or lending new context and extreme pleasure to these stories. Now, while that one I'm not super well versed on the exact ups and downs and ins and outs of that type of musical, my absolute favorite is this third type, and that is the full-blown Rodgers and Hammerstein style musical that just completely breaks the willing suspension of disbelief, or at least the ordinary version of the willing suspension of disbelief. Here, the music is not snuck in or rationalized. Here, characters will be walking down a street and suddenly will break into a perfect choreographed dance as other people on the street, completely unrelated as far as we know to the current conflict, will themselves join in as this production number just explodes through the scene. And it is so filled with joy, so preposterous, so audacious, that it just puts a huge smile on my face. Movies like The Music Man and Hello Dolly that are just a treat to behold, completely and totally preposterous, but a treat to behold. Those are musicals that just I don't know whether it takes you back to the idea of seeing it on a stage with it being this big performance, or what it necessarily is, but those just speak to me. And there's another element to these musicals to be considered from a overly either sentimental or philosophical or sappy point of view. For, at its core, a musical is just a bunch of people dancing around, singing, being rather ridiculous. And if the songs that they are singing aren't catchy, then it's just a lot of wasted time that could be more easily, in which the plot could be more easily conveyed through people just talking. And with some musicals, having plots that are thinner or not as nuanced, without the music there to pump up the excitement, it all just falls flat and makes for something that is entirely forgettable or even a waste of your time. But when a musical is at its best, it taps in to that almost magical element that we have in music, with music originating in the deep, deep past as something akin to magic. Things like dithyrambs and chants, and existing in a space where people believed that these specific tones in these cadences were almost akin to spells and could heal or invoke a meditative state and connect you with some divine aspect of the universe. And while that is not likely to happen in any of these musicals, still, there is something magical about a great song that instantly takes you back out of your present moment and into that song, into that narrative. And when such a song is presented in a movie, then it takes you back to that movie. To have scenes like in possibly one of my new favorite movies, The Greatest Showman, having songs in that, like This Is Me, songs that when you're down, you will either something in your day will remind you of it, or you will encounter a snippet of that refrain, and suddenly the entire song comes flooding back to you. Its messages, its meanings, its heart and its soul, giving you that extra levity, that extra lightness in your step, and belief that this is all going to get better. stories like that use the format of musicals to be wonderfully inspirational, and in the case of The Greatest Showman, beautifully audacious, to take the time and subject matter of something that was exploitative and had so many negative aspects, and yet packaging it for today's audience in a story about individuality, about loving yourself, about the beauty in all of us, and how meaningless appearance can be when hearts and souls are so full and so powerful. These types of movies are gems for me, and things that always give me a great sense of peace and joy. And while it is not very easy, or even to a degree that possible, for books to utilize music in the same way that a movie or a TV show might, still aspects of songs are very welcome in stories, because while it isn't the cadence that you can convey, you can still convey a sense of lore or a sense of I guess I would say perhaps culture to the narrative. Things like the pirate song from Treasure Island, 15 men on a dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum, drink and the devil had done for the rest, yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. Things like this that just help to envelop you in the world. Or stories like The Hobbit, a book, and the Rankin Bass movie version, both of which I have talked exceedingly too much about in this channel, but will never stop loving. Stories like that give this feeling of, again, culture to these characters. The dwarves singing their slow, low songs about mountains and gold, and the elves singing tra-la-la-lally here down in the valley and making merry, or even the goblins, foolish, preposterous, yet frightening goblins though they are, mocking the dwarves with what will soon be their fate, calling them 15 birds and 5 fir trees. Even in these situations, where you cannot, as I said, convey a cadence and make the song catchy and stick in the brain, still, if you use cunning words and craft a narrative in the song itself, these types of songs are very, very well welcome in novels. And finally, in movies or TV shows, there's just something about a song that can so eloquently and succinctly express complex emotions, characters grappling with things that would take a very long and difficult to word dialogue sequence to convey, but here with them bursting into song, it speaks exactly to you what they are going with. Things like Hercules is singing about how he will go the distance, or even montage moments, things like I'll Make a Man Out of You from Mulan, showing the evolution of a character as they grow more competent in some aspect of their lives. And while montages are hardly a new thing or even particularly complex, still, from a writing perspective, it's just such a wonderful way to quickly get the story to move in an excellent new direction without feeling that you are either rushing over this important character development or spending too long with it, because somehow adding that catchy beat beneath it and those perfect words just makes it all spectacular. So I hope that you have found some enjoyment in listening to me ramble about something that I love so much, and something which has, as I said, questionable applicability to a channel based around teaching you how to use these tropes in stories. That is, unless you are writing screenplays and interested in interjecting music into there, then more power to you, that's awesome. But still, again, thank you for allowing me to speak about this, and I hope that this video has, in some way, though it seems doubtable, been informative, or hopefully, at the very least, a pleasant diversion. Until next time. I forgot to have my hat with me, so we'll just have to make do with this.